Hey guys, recently two things happened that are not really related, but they ended up being so. Number one, the whole COVID thing canceled pretty much everything. No movies, no concerts, no shows, no theme parks, no nothing. And it's summer, so I've been cleaning out my attic because hoping to move in with my fiance soon. So I've been going through all my old stuff, including all my old comic books. And I got to thinking about what the next really great Marvel thing in the movies could be, because the whole Avengers multi-movie spanning franchise was great with the Infinity Gauntlet, and I thought what other Marvel stuff would be really cool. As I was going through all these old comic books and changing out old plastic and packing all my stuff up, so I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. No script, just some ideas. So here we go. Captain storyline with Captain America. Great. Where basically the government strips the Steve Rogers of his title and his suit and shield, and they give it to this kind of right-wing guy named Super Patriot, who later becomes U.S. agent. But Steve kind of takes it on the road, like dons this new costume that's similar to Captain America, but he's his own person now. There's this big epic confrontation at the end because the new Captain America, Walker, he kind of goes unhinged when his family gets murdered because somebody doxes him, and he's just kind of goes off the rails, and Rogers has to come back to try and stop him because at the end you find out it's all a big plot where it's meant to discourage the whole concept of Captain America. And there's this huge deal. I won't spoil it in case you haven't read it. It's worth getting the trade paperback if you haven't, or looking it up on a torrent somewhere or something. But it was by far my favorite Captain America story. Really good. It's also the start of relationship between Diamondback and Cap, which leads into another really cool story arc with the Serpent Society that I'd love to see them in a movie, a Captain America movie. That would be good. Acts of Vengeance. This was a multiple title spanning, like, big crossover that Marvel was really big on, where, we have the Avengers and Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and X-Men and all kinds of people, where the villains all got together, and since they've all been fighting the same heroes for ages and ages, they all know each other's strengths and weaknesses. They have the clever idea of, what if we swap enemies, where, like, instead of going after Captain America, Red Skull goes after Iron Man, and instead of Iron Man, Mandarin goes after Captain America, and that kind of thing. Now that we have this big multiverse on screen, I think this idea could be really fleshed out really well over a series of movies or Netflix series maybe. On the edges of it was the interesting story of Spider-Man getting the Captain Universe powers, where he has these vast cosmic powers, so he's tackling all kinds of, like, cosmic level villains. That was really interesting too. So Acts of Vengeance, I think that would be good. Also, there was Dynamo City. This is a storyline in Silver Surfer, where I still think it's kind of crazy that we have Thanos, but we don't have Silver Surfer in the Marvel Universe. I hope that gets straightened out at some point. But this is a really cool story where Silver Surfer finds himself in this big floating bureaucracy called Dynamo City, where basically it's this completely rigged game where these robots run the entire thing, and the people in it are all there because they think they're going to get rich, although there's this huge system set up to make sure you never quite make it, and you never quite get over the hump, and you're not even allowed to leave because there's an exit tax that you have to pay if you want to leave the city, so people are stuck in it, having to work and labor to lift up the elites. It's really not subtle, and I think it would be really timely right now with a lot of the things that are going on. Great story to tell, Dynamo City. If we ever get Silver Surfer, I would really like to see that, or maybe some other, like, kind of maybe the Guardians could visit it. That would be cool. The Assassination Nation plot. This was really good, about Silver Sable's fictional country, Simcaria. I'm probably saying that wrong. There's basically like a plot to try and start World War III centered around destroying their government, and Spider-Man and Sable team up to try and get to the bottom of it. And there's all kinds of really great cameos from Paladin, from Solo. A lot of my favorite 90s kind of people turn up there, as well as Sabretooth, one of my favorite villains. And, Ultimatum as well. I think Ultimatum would be a great villain for this current time period, because I think a lot of people would just totally buy that whole concept. Again, if you haven't read it, it's worth getting the collection to check it out, and I think it would make an awesome movie. And I'd love to see who they would get to play Sable, because I think too bad, but they won't. You can't play two people in the Marvel Universe, but I think Scarlet would have been a great Silver Sable. Who they would actually pick, that could be very interesting too. Going back to Captain America, there's a little story. It's not really well known. It's called Streets of Poison. It was like a little mini-series where they tried to be kind of topical, where they have Captain America like take on the war on drugs kind of deal, and he accidentally gets crack ingested into his system, or ice, synthetic crack, whatever you want to call it, and kind of goes berserk, and his friends have to hold him down and give him a blood transfusion, which takes away his super soldier abilities for a while. It features a really cool confrontation at the end, because you find out that it's actually the drugs being pushed in are by the Red Skull, who's a cartel of drug dealers coming in to try and take over New York because he wants to destroy America's soul with drugs. Meanwhile, Kingpin says that, oh no, I'm not destroying it, we're cutting out the weak people, this is just business. So the Red Skull and the Kingpin go into it, a big fight scene, and it features Bullseye, who... That was my big knock. I mean, I know everybody has a million things they hate about it, but the one thing I really hated about the Daredevil movie is they made Bullseye just this silent, personality-less goon who can throw things. And his personality is really well highlighted in this series. He's a really charismatic villain. That would be a pretty awesome fight scene as well. The one where he mixes it up with Captain America in this book. That would be cool to see. Extinction Agenda, big crossover, where it was kind of split between all the mutant titles, so X-Factor, X-Men, and New Mutants. And it's about how Cameron Hodge has the whole force of Genosha behind him, and he kind of declares war on mutants everywhere. It's a really intense story, and the casualties on each side, it was really, really heartfelt, kind of some of the losses that happen in it. I think it could be a really great story. I remember seeing in one of the kind of prequel films, the scene where Mystique is going through Banshee and the photos of all the people that have been killed in the war. It was kind of like that, only a whole story, like that kind of really epic kind of battle between good and evil, kind of like, the Allies versus the Nazis kind of thing, heroes versus the Genoshans. That one I think would be really good too. Since they did the New Mutants movie, which I've heard bad things, I haven't seen it yet, but all the characters are there. That's about it. Otherwise, this is, I guess, just kind of like, hey, wouldn't it be cool? But I know it can't happen because both guys have moved on. But this one-off I got here, SpiderMan versus Wolverine. This is actually the first comic book I ever bought myself from the local Dairy Mart, which is kind of like a 7-Eleven. Back when you could just buy a comic book at the drugstore or something like that. You didn't have to go to a special store downtown to get comic books. But this is where I first learned about Wolverine, who's, a super cool character in his own right. And it's him and Spider-Man are mixing it up. It's kind of sideways to what I feel is like the best kind of New York story, where they had the Rose and the Hobgoblin are trying to take over Kingpin's territory. And this is the one where later on you find out who Hobgoblin truly was. I just, a picture in my mind like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, how that would just come together perfectly to like bring this book to life. That was a really great story. It's set in Berlin, actually, before the wall came down. So that's kind of topical. I know there's a couple movies now that have kind of touched on that. So that age of nostalgia is just coming into focus right now, because as people my age grow up, remember stuff like that, that means something to them, the Berlin Wall. A lot of these kids don't know a whole lot about that. So it'd be a good story. So that's my thoughts on comic book movies, because I haven't found a new game I want to make videos about yet, and I wanted to make something for the kids to listen to up north. So, what are some Marvel movies you would like to see in the future? Share them in the comments. And thanks for listening.